Alright, so I saw this video last night and I wanted to make a video response last night. However, I figured it's about 2 in the morning at that time. I should probably wait till morning because, my parents and everyone else might think, oh hey, he's talking to himself. Let's blame that on violent video games as well. Yeah, really. Oops. Okay. Violent video games? Cause of violence? Hell no! I played Resident Evil when I was a kid. And you see me out, in elementary school shooting up some kids, collecting guns, and going into a high school movie theater, anything like that. No! The problem is, people need something to blame it on, other than themselves. Yeah, clearly, if your kid had a mental problem to begin with, you probably should have been doing more to help them. Instead, no, you're gonna be like, oh, video games. Yeah, I'm right, aren't I? Alright. So Joe Biden wanting to raise the tax on violent video games. Alright, number one. If I see 5-year-olds nowadays playing games like Resident Evil and stuff, if by chance they grow up to be desensitized to the killing and stuff, to where they can actually, walk into a school and start shooting their classmates, that was probably your own damn fault. Okay. Video games have ESRBs. Couple examples, these are just games that I pulled off my shelf here. We have Gran Turismo 4. ESRB. Rated E for everyone. Why? Mild lyrics. Then you have Resident Evil Code Veronica. ESRB. Rated M for mature. 17 plus. Notice the little 17 plus. It's because when the game came out, you had to be at least 17 or older to buy it. So, how are little kids getting their hands on these games? Oh yes, their parents are buying them for them. Oh, I have another news too. It all falls down to structuring kids, allowing what your kids do. Okay, when I was a kid, when I got home from school, my parents made me sit and do my homework, and then they booted my ass out the door and told me to have an imagination. Now, they're like, oh, here's a Xbox 360, Call of Duty, and all that other stuff. Yeah, when I was a kid, my parents made me play Crash Bandicoot. And, yeah, I played Resident Evil, but that's because I had older people in my household that had it, and I played it when my parents weren't looking. Yeah, they actually watched what I did. Alright, so you let your 5-year-old play Call of Duty, and then, 13 years down the road, he's just, programmed to think that, all he knows is killing or some shit. Well, that would, number one, be a freak accident. Number two, your child had something wrong from the beginning. And number three, that's your own damn fault for allowing him to play the damn game. What it all falls down to is the structuring of their kids. Another problem is, the government is sitting here trying to tax video games now that are violent because they're, relating them together. Alright, you know how you get kids to not be so aggressive, we'll say? Discipline. The only problem is, if you do anything other than, no, you can't do that, to your kids nowadays, CPS is called. You lose your kids. So, there's no discipline. Why? Because the government already stepped in, was like, oh, anything other than waving your finger and saying no is freaking child abuse. Yeah, you know what? My dad never actually had to hit me. All he had to do was threaten it, and that was it. I didn't do whatever he was threatening to hit me for. But he never actually hit me. I never went to school with bruises or anything, although CPS was called a couple times for stupid things, like a poem that I wrote that wasn't even my writing. I copied it from one of those cards you get from funeral homes. Yeah. And, yeah, CPS was called for that. It just goes to show you, again, like, our government steps in everyone's business and is like, oh, look at this poem, he's depressed. Meanwhile, 9 out of 10 friggin' funerals have cards with that poem on it. You'd think at least one person would have recognized it. Alright, again, it all falls down to how parents structure their kids. Like, oh man, this is so stupid. I'm gonna need like water and an aspirin after this. If you're so worried about your kids, don't buy them games that they're not old enough for. It's the same concept as stuff like cigarettes. Yeah, you see 13, 14, 15-year-old kids smoke. Are they walking into the stores and buying them themselves? No, they're having someone older do it. Keep better eye on your freaking kids if you're that worried. Don't take it out on the video game companies and then hurt everyone else. Alright, the government is going to put all this tax on video games. Do you know who that's going to hurt? It's going to hurt the video game companies, not the government, because if people stop buying the games because they can't afford them because of the tax, then, well, the government's not going to lose any money. They're just not going to gain any. What's going to happen is, then the video game companies are going to start losing money. And then, oh, they can't afford all of their employees. Then people start getting laid off. Higher unemployment rates. Yeah. You're not hurting the government at all, even if you boycott these games to get them to lower the tax or take the tax off. No, you're going to hurt the little guy. And I don't mean the corporate owners of these companies. I mean the people that work for them. Because, you know what? The less they make, the less employees they can have, the more layoffs there's going to be. That is why the government does it. Because, oh, well, they're not going to be hurt by it. I mean, I hope that if they do put a tax on it, it's going to be nothing like they did with cigarettes, because, I mean, I remember cigarettes were, I think for a pack of Camel Crushes back in 2009, 2010, was about $4.80 a pack. Then they said a few days in advance, oh, we're putting a tax on cigarettes to encourage people to stop smoking. Go in a few days later, 9 something a pack. So, if they do that with video games, like, parents are not going to be able to afford to freaking buy them. I mean, we're already in an economic collapse for the most part. All adding a tax and stuff like this is going to do is make it worse. Like, I don't even know how much more I can say in this video, but I'm sure I might be able to rant for another minute or two. Like, you know what? I'm not going to rant for another minute or two because, yeah. Well, that's my thoughts on it. And I hope everyone have a nice day.